Welcome to the HBCU Season Recap presented by Allstate. I'm Skubi Mageza, and I'm joined by a couple of HBCU broadcasting legends, Tiffany, Greene, and Jay Walker. How's it going, guys? You doing all right?
What's good, Scooby? Couldn't be any better right now. I mean, we're about to crown an HBCU national champion, so yeah, feeling pretty good.
Ditto what she said. Anytime you got a championship on the line, and I'm a football guy, and you're a football person, this is a football crowd, what's there not to love? National championship here in hot Atlanta.
Yeah, and we're going to recap just about everything within this show. We're going to talk about the biggest stories of the HBCU football season and get you all set for the Cricket Bowl, for the Cricket Celebration Bowl between the MEAC champion and the SWAC champion. That is South Carolina State and Prairie View A&M. So let's get into that right now. Now, in case you're new here, the Celebration Bowl is the national championship for Black college football. This game is guaranteed to have a new champion for the first time in 3 years, because the defending champs, Jackson State University, will not be in the game. First-year head coach DeSean Jackson and his PVA&M Panthers knocked off Jackson State in the SWAC championship game and now have an opportunity to slay another giant in South Carolina State. Chenna's Berry squad is 9-3 and knocking on the door of the biggest prize in HBCU football for the second year in a row. So let's go ahead and get straight into the matchup. So my first question to you both, starting with you, Tiff, what's the key matchup to watch in this game?
Well, it's how each team manages the moment. Because South Carolina State has already been here last year, they left a sour taste in their mouth from a season ago. So how they manage the moment as compared to bright-eyed Prairie View A&M. This is a new stage for them, and this is something that's becoming a new chapter in their football history. And so for me, the biggest matchup is how each team manages the moment.
Looking at the game plan, speed. The speed, it's always been, the MEAC, a little bit stronger teams. They win football games in the trenches, and the SWAC has the speed. But I'm going to tell you, this Prairie View A&M team is probably one of the fastest SWAC teams I've seen in this game in quite some while. So they're going to have that speed show up to try and neutralize the power of South Carolina State.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun matchup to watch indeed. And I think one matchup that's really interesting is these two head coaches. And you got South Carolina's Chenna's Berry and Prairie View's A&M's DeSean Jackson, both looking to get their first Celebration Bowl victory. So the question is, who needs this win more?
I think you start off by saying, first shout out. There's a recipe here that's been working, talking about the Division II coaches that had success on the Division II level, and then they stepped it up when they got to the FCS level. So that's a recipe that's been proven to work for both these schools and programs, and that's a growing trend. But I would say it's got to be Chenna's Berry. I mean, it has to be Chenna's Berry, because you can go 0 for 1, and you had to learn about it. 0 for 2 hurts in any sports. If it's a 7-game series, you can't fall down 0-2, because the odds are you're probably not going to win it. So I think it's obvious choice here is Chenna's Berry. He's proven he can get the Bulldogs here. Now he has to prove he can win it all.
I would agree with that, Jay, but I would also say for DeSean Jackson and Prairie View A&M, this is a, building piece for their program. And if he wants to keep fans in the stands next season, if he wants to continue to bring in recruits, this is a huge stage and opportunity for him. And while I don't think he needs it more than Chenna's, it's important for the foundational pieces of what he's trying to build there at Prairie View.
Yeah, and what PV was able to do in the SWAC championship against Jackson State was really impressive. I mean, they dominated that time of possession. They ran more plays, even though it was a close score towards the end of the game. But now we're as we kind of look towards the next year, I know we're focused in on this game, but which team in HBCU has a chance to kind of be next year's Prairie View? Because it's like they came out of nowhere, and this Jackson State team just does not lose, especially at home.
Well, give credit to Prairie View A&M and their previous coaches. Bubba McDowell took them to the SWAC championship game a season ago. Eric Dooley had them in the, SWAC championship back in 2021. And so they have gotten that close, but not been able to, as you said, Scooby, make it to that next threshold or level. This is their first SWAC championship in 16 years. So to me, the school that Prairie View played at the beginning of the season, that they do every year, the Labor Day Classic in Texas Southern. To me, they've been knocking on the door. Chris Dishman had a big win against them last year. Again, a new head coach for the Tigers within his first, 2 seasons. And then this year, it was a nail biter with Prairie View A&M, a 1-point ball game. So to me, Texas Southern, just 40 miles away from PV, has that opportunity to take that big jump.
Ooh, Tiff, you left me an opening. You forgot one. And let's not forget, let's stay in the SWAC West. I'm going to take Southern University. They got the splash hire with Marshall Faulk. You know all the ties and connections he has to the state of Louisiana. And let's not forget, Southern was predicted to win the SWAC West. They had a very disappointing season. There's only upside and room for improvement there. So if Southern University and Marshall Faulk can get older quicker, which is the trend, and let's suppose Marshall Faulk has a little bit of that NFL magic like we've seen from DeSean Jackson and Coach Prime, I'm going to say Southern University would be the team, I think, that has a chance to turn around quickly like Prairie View A&M did. Gotcha, Tiff.
Hey,
Gotcha.
Tiff, you have any rebuttal to that?
Yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll see some solidification in the SWAC West. I mean, because that was the thing that was up for grabs. Jay and I, we talk about it week in and week out, and it feels like season after season about who is going to hold down the SWAC West. And so now we've got 3 teams in contention with Southern, as you mentioned, Prairie View, and possibly Texas Southern.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. I love all these teams that we should be looking out for come next year, but let's bring it back towards this year, the Celebration Bowl. And I'm going to ask you guys to finish this sentence. And Jay, why don't I start with you? South Carolina State will win if
they find a way to run the football. They have to find a way to run the football against this unique defensive front you see from Prairie View A&M. It's like a 3-3 stack type defense with safeties that are active around the line of scrimmage. The number count on the line of scrimmage is always disrupted. You don't know who to block and how to block him in some cases. That's been a recipe of success for Prairie View A&M. So I'm going to say if South Carolina State can figure out how to run the football versus Prairie View A&M, they can win the Cricket Celebration Bowl.
Tiff?
All right, so I think Prairie View has an opportunity to win this Celebration Bowl if they run the ball effectively, which they've done all year long, as you mentioned, but also Cam Peters has a repeat performance from last week in the SWAC championship game. I mean, he was responsible for nearly 400 total yards of offense. He went off, and as everyone knows, he's been able to really come on as of late. There's a maturation process that we have seen out of him, and to me, Cameron Peters is the key for Prairie View.
Yeah, Cameron Peters seemed to be the entire offense against Jackson State, and it helps when you have a playmaker like that. You know, quarterback is the most important position in the game of football, and when he can do more than one thing, it's usually an extra piece there. Now, this is a game we've literally been waiting for all season, and I'm sure these 2 teams will deliver yet another banger. All right, it's time now for our Good Hands plays presented by Allstate, and we want to focus our attention on Andrew Body, quarterback, Alabama State, who definitely put on a lot of good plays this season. Body, a redshirt junior, passed for over 1,700 yards and 20 touchdowns while throwing just 1 interception. He also rushed for 518 yards and added 4 more touchdowns on the ground. Body didn't just put up big numbers. He was efficient while doing it. He completed over 70% of his passes this season while posting a 203.6 QBR. He did all of this while having his season cut short due to a shoulder injury suffered against Prairie View A&M. Body's outstanding season earned him several honors, including first team All-SWAC, SWAC Offensive Player of the Year, and being named to the HBCU All-American team. So congratulations to Andrew Body on the great season that he had at Alabama State. He was just one of many great players who stood out this entire season. So let's take a look at the all-conference teams from the MEAC and the SWAC. So here's a look at your all-MEAC team. As you can see, Walker Harris kind of leads it at the top as a quarterback. And then on the defense, you see Michael Lund's a second over there. So, Jay, what stands out to you immediately about this list?
Well, I mean, right away, I think that North Carolina Central was showing a lot of love, and this is the team that came in not first, not second, but third place in the conference. So they've got a lot of representation on this list. But, everybody likes offense, and Jared Washington was the Defensive Player of the Year in the MEAC. But I think you have to start with Michael Lunds, the second, up front. I mean, the year that he had over 18 and a half tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks on the season. He's a dominant player that's very disruptive, and he's the key reason that South Carolina State is here in the Cricket Celebration Bowl.
Yeah, Tiff, it was an easy choice to have him over there, but now the hard question comes to you. Did the voters miss anything on this list?
I don't know that they missed anything, but I have to echo what Jay said. I mean, you have, 10 first-team all-conference selections for North Carolina Central, and then nearly equal that number for the two teams that actually played for the MEAC championship in Delaware State and South Carolina State. So for me, that was a bit of a head scratcher as well. But I have to shout out and give love to the two running backs for Delaware State. I thought they did a great job. They were a 1-2 punch of James Jones and Marquise Gillis. I mean, again, because Delaware State just surprised all of us this season. Shout out to that rushing attack, which led the nation.
Nice when you have more than one guy in the backfield that can hurt a defense and just give you a little bit of a change of pace frequently throughout a game. Now, let's take a look at the all SWAC team right now. And as you see at the top of the list, we just brought him up, Andrew Body from Alabama State. And then on defense, we know that Jackson State defensive front was dangerous. Quincy Ivory kind of headlines that over there. So, Tiff, coming right back to you, what stands out to you about this all SWAC team?
Well, Quincy Ivory, I was excited to watch him ever since we talked to the coaches earlier in the season because they felt like he was a dude. He came over after being at the University of Florida, didn't necessarily play a lot, but they felt like he could make an impact, and he absolutely did. He was just a fun guy to watch. Really, that Jackson State defense was fun to watch as they flew all over the field. And then I also have to give shout out and props to Andrew Body. I mean, he was the most electrifying player in Black college football this season. He was absolutely outstanding. And if not slowed for that shoulder injury, we may be seeing, more of Andrew Body. And I hope we do. But he had a terrific season, and he made the team go on what was already an outstanding Hornet football team.
Jay, do you think the voters got it right?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously, Andrew Body's special, as Tiffany just talked about, one of the most dynamic players in all of FCS or college football alone. He'll be a hot commodity during the offseason. But I do have to say this. Prairie View's a team that took the conference by storm a little bit. But there's another team that went under the radars that had a very successful season, and that's Grambling State University. The G-men were under the radar, and they run the football like crazy. The head coach, Mickey Josephs, had them trending in the right direction. They controlled the line of scrimmage, and I don't see any offensive lineman from Grambling on there. If Grambling can do anything this season, they could run the football. Just ask Jackson State. That's why Jackson State took a regular season loss to them. So I thought the G-men, and let's not forget, Grambling is America's HBCU when it comes to football. Grambling getting shortchanged like that, what's up with that?
Yeah, on the defensive side, they got three separate players, but I completely hear what you're saying. But regardless, we say congratulations to everybody that was able to make the MEAC and the SWAC team this year. And we can't wait to see who else is going to be on that list next year, because every single year it just gets better and better, and we love the talent that we see in Black college football. Okay, moving on. One thing we know this season is that some coaches have overachieved relative towards their preseason expectations, while other coaches didn't quite deliver what we thought they would coming into the season. Now it's time for us to bring out our coaching report card, and Jay and Tiff are going to be our professors over here. We got Professor Jay, we got Professor Tiff, and they're going to be giving grades to some of the coaches that we'll be bringing up here, and we talked about them just a little bit earlier in the show. So let's just start with the guy that we were excited about at the top of the show, DeSean Jackson. In his first season as head coach at Delaware State, Coach Jack led the Hornets to an 8-4 record, while including going 4-1 in the MEAC. The rest of the league recognized the great season that the Hornets had. They had 6 players land first team all MEAC SWAC. All MEAC selections, excuse me. We'll start with you, Professor Jay Skywalker, because DeSean Jackson was a guy, if I understand, at the beginning of the season, you probably didn't expect to immediately get on and run in the way that he has. So what grade do you give him in his first year at Delaware State?
First of all, if I'm Professor J and you got Professor Tiff, can I change it up? Because growing up, I used to always want to be Dr. J. So
Dr.
can
J?
I be Dr. J for this segment? Let's go with Dr. J here. So Dr. J Skywalker is gonna give out I'm gonna do like my homie from Cali would think he deserved. I'm gonna give him an A-. I think DeSean will say there's a couple things he left on the table there. He didn't win the championship, was real close. But I'm gonna give my homie from the West Coast. He's gonna get an A-. Solid job. Nobody saw that coming. Hats off to him. He proved that he can coach, that he can motivate, and he can get those kids to play for Coach Jack. So I'm giving him an A- with a little bit of room for improvement.
All right, I'm going to go with just an A. Remove the minus. I mean, at the start of the year, we were unsure. And if you asked us to buy or sell, I think it was kind of like, hold or sell. Not really certain what we would see from him. And so, I know this is like to feed me or whatever. I'm eating crow. Because I didn't think that we would see what we saw from Coach DeSean Jackson. So hats off to him. Kudos to him for what he did in terms of taking a program that had won 2 games in the last 2 seasons and putting them on the brink of a MEAC championship. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. He got those guys to buy in, as you mentioned. The whole city of Philly came out to support him and Michael Vick in that game. I mean, the way that he was able to energize that program keeps going up from here for the Hornets.
I can only imagine how fun it is to have DeSean Jackson as your head coach, as a former player. I just imagine that he's a player's coach. He's fun. He's competitive, and he understands how to reach those kids. And you brought him up, Michael Vick. His first year also did not go how we planned. You would think a former quarterback who's been a backup, been a starter, really been in charge of offenses would know how to operate and be a leader of young men. But 1-11 on the season, lone win coming against Virginia State in week 2. It doesn't mean that he can't improve, but not what we expected. Professor Tiff, excuse me, what grade are we giving Coach Vick on year 1 at Norfolk?
Okay, so I really teetered and tottered on this one, but I'm going to go C-. And the reason why I'm going C-, because yes, it was an underwhelming and disappointing season after so much hype. We know that he is beloved in that 7-5-7 area, and I think he will get things together. Where I give the C- is that he was able to have success in the back half of the season, right, in the MEAC season. So when you look at 3 of the 5 losses in the MEAC, they were by a touchdown or less. So that tells me that the team is moving in the right direction. He made some changes to his coaching staff, and I think once he continues to get not only the players that he wants, but, solidifying some of those coaches and surrounds himself with a good staff, I think he will have success. But that C- 6 hard right now for Coach Vick.
Yeah, I'm gonna think she's a little bit generous there. That instinct is coming in. She just don't want to send somebody to summer school, but because you've got to pass a class in order to not have to retake it. I'm gonna give him a D and almost a D-, because remember back in the day in elementary school, your teacher would write the grades and kind of say D for disappointing, to say the least. I mean, all the hoopla was there, in that area there. I still think that's a good fit. I think that's a good fit for that area. Michael Vick coaching at Norfolk State, but he had to learn some lessons. That I don't think he was quite ready for. When you're the head man, you got to get rid of some friends. He had to get rid of some friends on the coaching staff. You have to get in people around you to surround you a little bit better. So I think in that case, there's plenty, and I say plenty of room for improvement. So I'm going with what I saw out there on the field. You win one game, you're no better than the guy they let go. So in that case there, I have to give him a D-. But I do think he's in the right spot, in the right situation, and he can turn that grade around quickly.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself around.
You.
And for
you can't
everyone.
Win one game and get a C. You can't do that. That's like going 50-50 on a test. You can't win one game and get a C. Come on.
Hey, look, as a professor, I'm looking for progress, and I saw progress in the back half of the season, and so
I'm going to
I'm
take your
that,
class.
that sliding curve. Okay, I'm taking a look at the whole situation, and I'm giving a sliding curve. That's where that C minus came in.
Well, there was absolutely no sliding curve as it relates to Tremaine Jackson. I mean, look what he's been able to do in his first season. It has been a model of consistency throughout the whole year. So, Professor Tiff, what are you giving Tremaine Jackson as his grade?
I'm giving him an A plus. Like, he came in there during media day and he was like, "Hey, look, hit Control Alt Delete on this season. Forget what you saw. This is something completely new." 70 new players brought into that program, and for him to have success at the D2 level, as Jay mentioned before, that's been the formula, a recipe for success now at the FCS level. It was very impressive, and I walked away feeling that way after seeing them in the SWAC championship game. That was my first time laying eyes on them in person, and I think that he has just done an amazing job in the way that he wants to do it. Kind of he has his own approach to it, a no nonsense kind of guy, dogmatic in the way he does things, but he gets results. So an A plus for Tremaine Jackson.
I mean, I'll give him 2 grades. I'll give him an A right now, and it can only go up. If he wins this weekend and wins the HBCU National Championship, he gets an A plus. But right now he's at an A with an opportunity to get an A plus. And just one little last nugget. I mean, this roster has over 70 new players on this roster. That's unheard of to have this type of success with 70 new players on the roster. He gets an A, possibly with a chance to get an A plus.
You're a tough grader, if I might say. I mean, you guys teamed to the championship, and we're like, you still got to do a little bit more to get to an A plus. Damn, what else I got to do?
I ain't trying to take your class, Dr. J.
Yeah, right. His rate my professor grade is going to be real low. All right. Now, one of the better coaches in the SWAC that seems to go under the radar when we start giving out flowers is Eddie Robinson Jr. Professor Tiff, what grade are you giving Coach Robinson for this season?
Okay, well, they were 2 yards short for potentially being here in Atlanta for the Cricket Celebration Bowl. So I'm going to give Eddie Robinson, he is a solid A. He is a solid A across the board. And it wouldn't be for just this season. I would give it to him last season. I think he is well respected among the coaches. A 10-win season, first time since 2004. The Hornets always come in with a strong defense. They added the component of body, a healthy body at the start of the year. Eddie Robinson Jr. does not, as you mentioned, get the credit that he deserves. He's the dean of SWAC coaches, if you could believe it, in his 4th season with the program. Yeah, Eddie Robinson is just as solid as they come. I know exactly what to expect when I see Eddie Robinson Jr. show up for class.
Well, without a championship, I'm not giving him an A plus. You know that. So I'll give him an A for the job he did. 9-2 solid season there. I mean, the one loss to UAB, which really doesn't count because that's playing above. And then, as Tiff mentioned before, they went there and lost on the last play to Jackson State where they could have won that game. So I'm going to give him a solid A.
All right, I'm curious what you're going to give for a grade for this next head coach, because this was the king, and the king has fallen. Back-to-back Celebration Bowl victories for Jackson State, and they failed to return after losing to Prairie View A&M. So, Professor Jay, this one's for you. What grade are you giving T.C. Taylor for the season?
A minus. He gets an A minus. I mean, anytime you make it to the SWAC championship game, you had a pretty good season. You had the quality win versus Alabama State. But, and I'm giving him this grade, the A, and he's not going to the B category because of what he did after they suffered that loss versus Grambling. The wheels could have fallen off. I mean, he lost his quarterback, Jacoby Morgan, who was going to be the Offensive Player of the Year candidate in the conference. He lost him, but still was able to right the ship and still came close to making it to Atlanta for the Cricket Celebration Bowl. So I'm giving him an A minus for a solid job of keeping that ship afloat.
Perhaps that's the one time that you and I agree on these grades, Jay. I'm going to be a strict grader as well and give him an A minus for all the reasons that you mentioned. But what I will say of TC Taylor is just a quality person, a class act within the conference, just a guy that I've had the opportunity and we've had the opportunity to cover and enjoy seeing what he's done with his teams. And finessing the style with whatever the personnel is, they've been able to make adjustments. We talk about surrounding yourself with great people. Terenzo Quinn, the DC, TC even dibbled and dabbled in the play calling duties as well, along with Rip Kirk and Manny Ramirez. So I think TC has always done a stand-up job, but I got to give them an A minus because they fell short in the SWAC championship.
Yeah, to everyone watching,
don't you get the feeling that like Tiffany's one of those like professors, like she wants to sit there and explain to you every grade you got there. I'm just like, give me my A and let me go. Once you said A, you had me.
Oh man!
Wait a minute! Don't people these days like explanations? Like students, like they don't accept that anymore. You have to explain to them, just like they ask them to show your work. Well, I'm gonna show you how you got this grade, right? Like before. That wasn't happening. Now it's a little different.
Everyone has a different style. So some teachers just like get in, get out. Tiff is like, listen, I'll break it down for you. Let's go ahead and talk. I love it. Either way works, right? And I think you both just gave the recipes of what it takes to be a great head coach and have success. You have to be able to surround yourself with the right staff, right? And you have to be able to motivate these young players. So all those things play a part in a lot of the first year coaches that we just talked about are former NFL greats who are trying to get their hands into HBCU football. And we have another one doing that in Marshall Faulk. We brought him up earlier at the top of the show. He's announced that he'll be head coach at Southern University after briefly serving as the Colorado's running back coach. So, Professor Tiff, do you think this is a trend of former NFL players with little to no experience going to HBCU to get a head start in head coaching?
I think it is a trend that will continue. It's hot right now. Is it a hot line or a hot song? Right now, I think it's still a hot line. Okay. And so you saw the success that Coach Prime had. Eddie George stayed the course a little bit longer, but then had success. And it, promoted him to a next level. I would say that Marshall Faulk has wanted that job, in my opinion, or maybe they've wanted him for some time. He goes back to the state of Louisiana, his home state. So I think that there is a lot of opportunity here for Marshall Faulk and Southern, a very proud program.
Will it continue? I think absolutely it will. I mean, there's some talk about Ray Lewis is interested in throwing his name out there. And I think, he's one of the guys that could have an impact, like a Coach Prime. I mean, the job that Coach Prime did at Jackson State was phenomenal. But people have to realize there's only one Deion Sanders in my lifetime. There's only been one Deion Sanders. So finding the next one, trying to replicate, that's going to be even tougher. But there's some names out there. I mean, DeSean Jackson proved that, you don't have to be that Hall of Famer right now to go in there and make a difference. So there's different ways to do it. I think it's a trend that will continue. But I also think, you're going to have those people that are going to take some lumps. They're going to get hit on top because there's some really good coaches on the HBCU ranks throughout both conferences, throughout the lay of the land. So although it's a trend that will continue, you're going to be judged by success. And how many guys can come in there and just put it all together, that's going to be what we look at when we go 4 or 5 years down the road. And I don't want to disrespect those guys that have also paid their dues. Let's not forget Doug Williams was a star. He did it at Grambling years ago. We talked about Eddie Robinson Jr., who's doing a great job at Alabama State right now. He played 10 years in the National Football League. My college coach, Steve Wilson, went from straight coaching, from playing in the NFL to becoming a college coach. So we've had people do this in the past, which have laid a foundation and have proven it can be done successfully.
Yeah, competition is competition, and if you get into the head coaching ranks, you got to be able to bring it every single time. And I would love to see some of my favorite players growing up take a swing at that. And speaking of new coaches, FAMU, they have an opening. FAMU has an opening for a head coach position. So, Tiff, let me come to you first. Any thoughts on who they could possibly target for that position?
I know the splash hire and the sexy move right now is to look for an NFL guy because, again, that's the trend that we just talked about. But why not go with your own and Quinn Gray? I mean, at Albany State, he has done a marvelous job just coming off an SIAC championship. He's taken them to the D2 playoffs, deep run for the Golden Rams. So I think Quinn Gray, to me, would be a natural fit, an easy fit for FAMU.
I would agree. I mean, I think so. But, with FAMU, I mean, I don't know who you're going to hire that's going to make them happy. It's like a 50-50. That fan base there demands a lot because they give a lot. Quinn Gray can come there. He knows how to. He's coached there before. He was an assistant coach when Earl Holmes was there. He's proven that he can coach at the college football level as a head coach. So I think all things are pointing in that direction. So FAMU, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, but one thing we do know is that people are going to be watching regardless of who's going to be at that head coach position because we love this game. The MEAC and the SWAC get the most attention when it comes down to HBCU football, but we have to show some more love to some other HBCU programs who made big things happen this season, namely at the Division II levels, where for the first time ever, 5 HBCU programs earned a bid to the D2 playoff field. That's incredible. So, Tiff, who's your non-MEAC or SWAC HBCU shout-out?
Okay, wait a minute. Give it up for Johnson C. Smith. Just their second conference title. They won the CIAA. First time in 56 years. Look, the Golden Bulls got that thing going on. Head coach Maurice Flowers, yes, give him all the flowers and his love for Johnson C. Smith. I think the other school that stands out to me is Virginia Union. Virginia Union has consistently been that school in the CIAA before being knocked off by Johnson C. Smith. Dr. Alvin Parker has done a phenomenal job at the helm, holding things down for the Panthers. One of the top running backs, the top running back in all of Division II in Curtis Allen, and how cold he was in the backfield. Yeah, shout out D2s because they put on, the D2 HBCUs put on this year, especially in the playoffs. You know what, Jay? Let me take over. I'm still holding down for the D2s. Let's talk about Albany State. We just said Quinn Gray, who did a great job there. How about Kentucky State? Holla. And yeah, you got to show love to Benedict because they have moved on ever since Chinnisberry, and they're like, we still good. Okay, we here. We got this. We're holding it down in Columbia, South Carolina. So, yeah, shout out to all the big D2 HBCUs.
Yeah, big shout out to all those schools and all the schools in HBCU, Division I, Division II, Division III, whatever it is. We love watching all of you guys play this game of football. It brings us all together. And make sure to tune into the Celebration Bowl to hear these two legends on the call. For Jay Walker and Tiffany Greene, thank you very much. I'm Skubi Mageza. Thank you for watching the HBCU Season Recap presented by Allstate.